The purpose of this video really is just to show the use of a wax stick to apply polish to a finished item. It's probably going to be only used on small items, perhaps small bowls. I'm going to actually make a toadstool or mushroom or whatever you want to call it, and apply this wax. The wax is not intended to be waterproof or for excessive handling, but it would give a good shine to the work. So I'm going to mount this using just a hole in the end of the blank. This is a piece of yew. This is a wood screw chuck for those who don't know, or a worm screw, I think our American cousins call it. That is simply wound onto that. Lock the shaft of the lathe and wind the wood on. Now this can be on for about an inch or less, it doesn't really matter. This screw is 1 inch, so what I tend to do is put a spacer on. So by popping that spacer on, you give yourself a little bit more support, and you don't actually need to wind it onto the whole length of the screw. Right, that's on there firmly. Make sure your lock is well out of the way. I'm using a small homemade tool rest. It's made out of 1/4 inch angle iron. Make sure the tool rest is away from the work. Now what I'm going to do is bring up the tailstock just to support the end of that until I've got it roughed out. Just a slight support, just lock that in place, and there we go. Speed wise, it's entirely up to you what's safe. That looks about right. Use a 3/4 inch roughing gouge. Start on the top, what's going to be the top of the mushroom. So this is the top of the mushroom, this end. Now, the thing to do is to work out where you're going to have the stem and where's going to be the base. So you can mark that off, roughly speaking, shall we say a line round there. That's roughly where the base of the mushroom is going to be. Then you're going to have your stalk, and then you're going to have the bottom of the mushroom. So by doing that, you're just giving yourself a bit of a guide. So this end here, it has got a crack in this timber, but I'm not bothered about that. I did make half a dozen mushrooms for a craft fair, and they all split, and a Chinese lady bought them all and then came back half an hour later to ask if I had any more with the splitting, because she liked them. So here we go, on the rest, bevel rubbing, raise the handle, there's your cut, off you go. Point it the way you're going. Sorry about the sound quality. Switching tools now. I'm going to go to a spindle gouge, 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Round the top over. Bevel rubbing all the way round. Now we'll have a little go at where the stem's going to go in here. So I'm just going to grab got a parting tool here, so mark that up. Back to my spindle gouge. Nice piece of wood as usual with you. Right, before we go any further, what we'll do is we'll move the tailstock out of the way. It's no longer needed. Move the tool rest round a touch, make sure it's not touching. Change to a 1/4 inch spindle gouge. That's it. Right, we're going to give it a little bit of a sand. Turn the speed down for sanding, you don't need it racing away. Just turned on my dust extractor. The reason I'm sanding this now is because I'm going to, when I cut this away for the stem, it will be weaker than it is. So I don't want to be working on this end when there's not much stem there. This is a 180 grit. because this is slightly oval, then I want to work on this just by hand so that it's all covered. This is 200. Nice and smooth, and then finally with a what I call web racks, but it has other names like Scotch Brite. This is the maroon one, which is a sort of a medium grade, but that really does make it nice and smooth. Bring back the tool rest. As you can see, the body is more or less done. Just drop the tool rest down a touch, switch to my 1/2 inch spindle gouge and turn the speed up. Quarter inch spindle gouge. Now underneath the body of it, or the top of the mushroom, I don't like to just have a flat across. I tend to go up inside with a bit of a cone. So I designed this tool to do that. You can see that. Like an elongated round skew chisel, really. pretty much the turning done. And for finishing, it's quite straightforward. I apply some sanding sealer. This is cellulose sanding sealer. Put it on quite liberally. I mixed mine with some cellulose thinners, so it's about 50-50. And by doing that, the sealer soaks in quicker into the timber. Coat the whole thing. That's it. And then I use paper towel and just wipe off any excess of the sanding sealer. There we go. Then with a fresh piece of paper, or a couple of sheets, turn the lathe back on, turn the speed up slightly, and then just apply a bit of pressure to the timber, and that'll give you, that will seal the sealer and dry it completely. As you can see, that's quite a nice shine on there already. Now, this stick that I'm going to use is a mixture of beeswax and carnauba wax. I make them myself. It's quite straightforward. You just melt the wax very carefully and slowly in a big pan, and once it's dry, pour it into mould. Once it's melted, pour it into moulds. And to apply it to your timber, turn the lathe down, and you literally hold it onto the wood, rotating wood, and move it down almost as quick as that. So it's all just a single motion round to there, and then you buff it up, and you'll see what I mean. Turn it up a little bit faster than that. There you go. Make sure you get the end. With your paper towel, don't use cotton material or anything that's got threads on it, because you might catch in and pull your hand in. So on either side, a bit of pressure. Move it backwards and forwards, you'll see little lines appear. That's where the wax hasn't melted. So what you're actually doing is applying a bit of pressure to melt the wax into the surface. If you put too much on, you'll get rings on there, and then all you have to do is to take the Scotch-Brite and cut it back again. I'll put a little bit on the base. I'm not going to put any on the stem. There we are, that's about it, I think. Just turn that off. As you can see, even with a crack in it, that's a pretty nice finish. I hope you like that, and any questions, please fire away.